Facilities that make this program possible are provided by the City of Highland Park and have been made possible in part by Ravinia Festival, CJE, Senior Life, GAN Music and Sound.
Hello and welcome to Cahnmann's Current Events Roundtable. Today I have one of the most controversial shows that we have ever put on, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about it. First of all, I want to welcome my guest, Angela Moy.
Nice to meet you. Thank you for having me.
And also Chao Yu.
Nice
Welcome.
to meet you.
Nice to have you on the show. And both of my guests are Falun Gong practitioners. And Angela she has immigrated to the United States from China in 1994. She is also a purchasing manager for a company here in Chicago. Angela has volunteered as a cultural events coordinator with the Mid-USA Falun Dafa Association to make the public aware of the persecution of the Falun Gong that's been persecuted in China, and it's been taking place in China for the last 14 years. Chao is also a Falun Gong practitioner, and he graduated from Tsinghua University, and which is an Ivy League university, as a software engineer before he was arrested and sent to jail for 9 years, practicing Falun Gong here, and that is the reason why he was in jail for all this time. He came back here in May of this year. And what the problem is, let me read this to you because I think this is very important. We are hoping that through this program, the American public is made aware of the persecution of the Falun Gong and the horrific crime of organ harvesting committed to the Falun Gong practitioners by the Chinese Communist regime. Most importantly, as American patients continue to travel to China for organ transplants and the medical community continues training of Chinese doctors, we hope that this program will make our country doctors, patients, hospitals, and universities informed decisions, take a righteous stance regarding organ transplantation and beyond, while avoiding becoming accomplices to this heinous crime. And this is what is going on. People are harvesting these organs on live prisoners. And I know that you, Chao, have been a prisoner.
Yes.
You were a prisoner for what, almost 9 years.
9 years and 6 months.
9 years and 6 months for just practicing this form of
spirituality.
Yeah. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's meditation. It's sort of like yoga in many ways. But why don't you tell a little bit about this and what is really going on in China?
Okay,
Angela.
yeah. Falun Gong is an ancient Chinese spiritual practice in the Buddhist school.
Okay.
And it consists of moral teachings and meditation.
Tell a little bit to our viewers.
Okay. It consists of moral teachings, meditation, and 4 sets of gentle movements.
Mm-hmm.
And Falun Gong's core values are truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance. Falun Gong teaches those values are the basic most fundamental qualities of the universe and use them to guide our daily life and practices.
Okay, but why are they getting persecuted? Is it the ideology that they don't, communism, Chinese has been a communistic society for many years. And is there a conflict of ideology, political ideology? Is that what's happening?
Definitely. So one of the primary reasons for persecution is Falun Gong believed in higher beings. They believe in gods, Buddhas, and the Taos, and they believe that anyone can attain or achieve the divine realm through self-refinement. And that the Communist Party saw that as in conflict with its atheist ideology. Additionally, not only the ideology, but also Falun Gong promotes a set of values that are very different than the Communist Party. For example, the party's media deceived the public, where Falun Gong emphasized truthfulness. Where the party calls for people to struggle against each other, Falun Gong urges kindness. And where the party uses violence to enforce its will, Falun Gong teaches strict nonviolence.
And because of this, they are taking these practitioners as prisoners, and what they're doing to a lot of them, I know you were in prison for 9 years, and you lucked out. They didn't take any of your organs, but most of the prisoners that they take in, and if you need an organ, like for instance, I have the organs right over here. Like if they need a cornea, that's $30,000. They need a lung, that's $150,000 to $170,000. If they need a liver, that's $98,000 to $130,000. A heart, believe it or not, $130,000 to $160,000. Kidney, $62,000, and kidney pancreas, $150,000. So if somebody, say from the United States or from any other country, needs one of these organs, instead of, because a lot of the countries, like I know in the Philippines, a lot of their people are donating their kidneys and they're getting paid, but they do not die. They may have their transplanted, their kidneys, and getting money from it. But these prisoners they're taking the prisoners, getting their organs, and killing them and cremating them. That's what's happening in China right now?
A lot of reports 显示出
lots of reports show that from the independent investigators, David Matters and David Kilgore, as well as Ethan Gutman, who is a freelance writer and a journalist. They conducted independent investigations along with the United Nations. It's confirmed that probably about 40 to 65,000 Falun Gong practitioners who were in jail were killed for their organs.
Without their
consent.
No consent.
No consent.
It isn't like other countries that it's become the black market getting their organs, but there is no consent.
No consent, and it's orchestrated by the Chinese government through its military surgeons. They collaborated with military hospitals, surgeons, and the prisons, so that they can have the prisons timed when the organ is needed, so they can send the prisoners, these prisoners of conscience, to the military hospital or just the regular hospital, and have the military surgeon perform the organ harvesting timed so that the organ can be transplanted to the patients.
Now, when they do these organs, what about the blood type and everything else that goes back? Because sometimes my understanding is a lot of these people come back to the United States or to their country of origin, and they become very ill because there wasn't a proper match and it wasn't proper blood type. Is this true?
It's quite possible, because it's a timely transplant that they have to find somebody, but there could be times that when there was error in matching blood type. These prisoners routinely being checked on their blood, not for their health reasons is for the demand for the organ transplant. They will routinely check out their health conditions and the blood type in order to do a match.
Oh my goodness, this is really, and you spent 9 years, and I understand your wife was in the prison as well?
Yes. My wife was sentenced to prison for 11 years. In fact,
Because she was practicing Falun Gong.
because there were several reasons for our being sentenced to prison. One is we shared the experience of our fellow practitioners in the website run by our fellow practitioners in America. Second, we established the encrypted communication channel between China and Western world, and we help journalists in China, Western journalists in China, to interview those victims of torture and raped, or the family members of those victims being killed.
So you're one of the people that got some of this out into the outside of China. You were able to tell people what was happening.
Yes.
And because of this, you and your wife were put in prison.
Yes.
And you also have a child that was how old when you were in prison? How old was the child when you were sent to prison?
We have arrested several times. First time we were arrested, the first time we were arrested, my son is only 17 months old. And 17 months old.
So he's 17 months old. And then when you were in prison, when you finally saw your son again, he was how old? He was like...
When I was set free in 2012, my son was 14 years old and 6 feet tall.
Wow, and the last time you saw him, he was just a little boy.
Yes, and I was only allowed 2 times to meet with him in the whole imprisonment period.
And what about your wife? The same thing?
My son can visit my wife per month.
But not for you, only
But not for me.
For the woman
Yeah,
only.
yeah.
And so you were able to get out of the prison thanks to somebody, your sister apparently lives where? She lives in...
My eldest sister lived in Madison, Wisconsin.
Okay.
And she sent an invitation letter to me. And I used this invitation letter to acquire a visa from U.S. government. Mm-hmm. And I come to USA May the 13th this year.
And it was nothing that you did to anybody. It was just practicing this type of meditation and
helping the Western journalists to tell the truth to outside of China. Yeah.
And so that's what happened, finally got released from prison. And the truth is harvesting organs.
Yeah, and the truth is the torture that he was trying to help the journalists to find out the persecution and the severity of the persecution, and to the world that this is another Holocaust that the Chinese government tried to control and do not want to leak this information out. But these journalists, along with Chow and his wife and his team's help, that the information got out of China.
It kind of reminds me of what happened to the Jewish people during Germany, and they were tortured and a lot of experimentation on them, and they killed millions and millions of Jewish people, and they used their while they were alive, they were using their body parts and giving them all kinds of experiments on them. And so this is almost identical to, people are not, and this is why I did this show, because I wanted people to be informed, our viewers and people around the world to be informed about what's really going on. We had no idea until you did a presentation at the synagogue that I attended, and that's where the three of us met at that synagogue. And I think that was very apropos coming to the synagogue, because the Jewish people know what happened to their people. And this is just another form of what is going on there in China, what happened to the people in Germany. Also, what happens? How does it all work? Are the victims held in a concentration camp prior to their organs being harvested? What is really happening to the prisoners? How do they do all this?
Yeah, so the practitioners are normally abducted or kidnapped or arrested from their home, and they sent to jail without due process, without a legal, like a court process. And they were sent to jail and a concentration camp, labor camp, where they would ask to be to recant their faith, and if they refused to, they would be sent to different kind of, so like labor camp, concentration camp,
center, center.
Prisons,
Yes.
and so they are being tested for
some institution they call law education institution center.
To try
something
to
like that.
transform these practitioners to non-believers. So they're trying to brainwash this practitioner. They use psychiatric treatments where they inject the practitioners with lethal and poison or those injections that are dangerous to their nervous system, so that they would go crazy. They would recant their faith. They would. Because of all the torture, they would stop practicing. That's what.
Well, how do they harvest? You have to be very careful when you harvest organs. You can't do any lethal injections because you ruin the kidney. How do they do this? Did they just put them to sleep like they're operating, and then they?
No, many occasions they are still live because they don't want to inject any medications, and they were still live, and they would carve out. They just cut out their body and take the vital organs out.
Oh my goodness.
While they're alive without any anesthetics.
Oh
So you can imagine how much pain they inflict. And organ harvesting is not only a way to profit from the organs, but also a way to torture and to persecute Falun Gong practitioners. Is a way of punish them.
So it isn't, when we talk about, because people pay good money for this, you had said something earlier to me that it really isn't only about the money. It's not just about money at all.
Not about the money.
It's about...
I think the prime purpose of organ harvesting or torture or something like that is to punish, is to terrify. I think there are two main tools to control the people in China by Chinese Communist Party regime. One is violence, second is lies, I think. They try to use extreme violent way to destruct you and to terrify others and to make their control more steadified.
Mm-hmm. So it is one way to control the society.
Yeah.
It's to use violence to control society and also to terrify others and prevent them from practicing Falun Gong.
Why did you two decide to practice Falun Gong? What was that all about? What was the incentive that, why you liked that? What made you practice?
Yeah. So Falun Gong, when it was first taught in 1992 by the founder, Mr. Li Hongzhi, and people who practice gain physical and mental health. And initially, the Chinese government even credited Falun Gong for saving healthcare costs and promoting public morality.
So originally,
it was promoted.
It was promoted in China, right?
Yes, it was promoted.
It was promoted in China. Because when I went to China, I remember seeing people doing yoga and Tai Chi.
Yes.
And I would watch them in gardens. Everywhere, all in public places, like outside. They're always doing their. And so it was accepted.
It was accepted in the beginning, but then by 1999, when the number of practitioners actually grew to 70 million, according to Chinese government's statistics, and according to Falun Gong's estimates, it grew to 100 million. And according to U.S. News and World Report, they put it that this is the largest voluntary organization in China, larger than the Communist Party, whose membership stood at about 65 million at that time. So the Chinese Communist regime was intimidated by the rapid rise to popularity.
So were they worried about somehow the people would start going to this movement and forget about the communist regime? Is that what they were worried about?
Yes. That's what we talked about, the ideology gap, is because these people believe in higher beings and not the atheism.
But they weren't really going against, they weren't saying, if we do this, you can't practice communism. It was just accepted. That was communism. This is what we believe.
Yeah.
And in our country, you could practice this. People can
Yes.
practice Buddhism,
Yes.
Hinduism, can practice any religion
Yes.
or any kind of movement you want. And it's accepted. I mean, I don't like, if I wasn't a Falun Gong and I didn't want to practice it, I could practice something else and no one
Yes.
would care one way or the other. Why were they so intimidated? I mean, you weren't about to take away their
Right.
movement.
And this
So
also
I want to just
yeah.
I think the main reason is that the conflict between two kind of ideology.
Ideologies.
Two kind of ideology. The core principle of Falun Gong is compassion, forbearance, and truthfulness. Truthfulness, compassion, and forbearance. And
What is communism? And communism is
It's about
as I said before, the
violence,
violence and lie.
against each other,
Yes.
deceive public, so lies,
But
Yes.
violence.
communism originally, I think, started that Karl Marx's idea of communism at one time, it was everything was the same. You would get what he would get, I
Yeah.
would get what you would get, everybody would remain the same. But it doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't
Because there are people that become very, very, very wealthy, and then
Yeah.
there's others that are very, very poor.
Poor,
So
yeah.
it's just an ideology. It sounds good on paper, but it
Yes.
doesn't really work.
Yeah,
No,
but another
it doesn't.
factor I wanted to point out is that at the time, even a lot of the top party officials even practiced Falun Gong. The only one person who plays a decisive role in the persecution, it was the general secretary of the Communist Party. His name is Jiang Zemin. He was so jealous of the popularity of Falun Gong that he saw that as undercutting his own bid for to become the third paramount leaders in China after Mao Zedong and Deng
I mean, like a
Xiaoping.
chairman?
Yeah.
So he was afraid
he
that
was jealous of the popularity of
And he was
Falun Gong.
probably afraid that maybe he wouldn't become chairman, and somebody from your group
Yeah.
would become chairman and take over the Chinese regime.
Yep.
So there was like a competition. He saw it as competition.
Yes.
Yes, he saw it as a competition.
Yes.
And how were you treated in the prison? How were you treated? I mean, you were there 9 years. I mean, oh my God, you look. I thought when I first met both of you, I thought you were in your late 20s, and I find out you're
Yeah.
how old?
41 years old.
41 years old, and
And
you're
I'm 43.
and 43 years
Yeah.
old. And I mean, you guys look amazing. Maybe because you practice this. I think that's what you told me.
Yes. Yeah.
I think I'm going to start practicing. younger and younger looking. But
Yeah.
what was it like for you to be in prison like that for all those years? And how did you stay?
The long period of imprisonment life, right?
Yeah. How did you maintain it? I mean, you have such a positive attitude. How did you survive it? I mean, somebody else would just
Okay.
have crumbled and
Yes.
been depressed and defeated, and you seem to.
In fact, I think it is it is a miracle of Falun Gong. In fact, I would like to say that it is a miracle of Falun Gong, and I have endured a lot of torture in prison. I can give you some examples. When I was caught, one month after I was caught, about 10 policemen entered into the room, and they began to kicking me all of my body and slap on my face, and they use a square chair leg to place on my shanks, and an adult standing on the chair legs and playing seesaw, and they spit on my face and so on.
So how did you get through that? I mean, somebody else would have just probably died, and what were you thinking? How did you survive?
In fact, in 1999, I was a 27 years old young man. If I have not experienced all about that, I cannot imagine I could experience all of this. Sometimes one can recognize himself after he or she experience all of his or her life. I don't know if I express myself clearly. 你只有经过了你人生以后，你才知道自己是什么样的人。
Oh,
The
yeah.
next time you come, I'm going to speak Chinese to you.
Sorry.
No,
It's
yeah,
okay.
he's trying to, what
Yeah.
he's saying that after he experienced all the suffering and experienced what he had in his life, that he finally found out who he is. And,
Yeah.
and I think it's also through his faith in Falun Gong as well that
Yes.
really
And
helped him to
and-
go through this.
And,
Yes.
and maybe you appreciate life so much better. I mean, you have, you experienced the good and you experienced the bad, and maybe that made you a stronger person.
In fact, I consider myself as a lucky person because not everyone can face the choice or can face this kind of choice that if you are driven by your flesh desire or by fear, or you can face the future you didn't know, but you can stick to the right principle. It's a choice between two kinds of life. I am so lucky to have this choice and choose the right side.
And I'm glad that you're here.
Thank you.
I'm very happy that you're here and that we met. And what would you like, you know, we have a little bit of time left, and maybe talk about what your mission is now. Why are you informing everybody? How is this going to be part of what you're doing right now? Because I understand you are, you know, as far as your title, you're going around talking to different groups
Yeah, yeah.
and coordinating this. What is your goals, and what do you want the viewers to? I want just to give
Yeah.
something to leave them with.
Right, yeah. So we want the American public to be aware of the persecution that's been lasted for 14 years. And the organ harvesting that's going on in China. And I hope the American people and also the people outside of China would take a righteous stand to against organ harvesting in China, against the persecution in China. In fact, the U.S. Congress has issued a resolution in 2010, House Resolution 605, to urge the Chinese government to stop the persecution of Falun Gong. And now we are also working on another resolution, House Resolution 218, that urges the U.S. government to call Chinese government to stop the organ harvesting practice in China. So we hope the American public now is aware of this and not to become accomplices of such a heinous crime against humanity.
And do you think it's working? Has anybody? By coming to the United States, is there somebody in other countries too that is doing what you're doing? Maybe in Canada.